Well, hey, everybody, it's Jeff DeVerter. I'm the Chief Technology Evangelist here at Rackspace Technology. And today in Solve Live, we're going to continue to dig into the cybersecurity findings from our research of 1,400 IT and security leaders all around the globe. So stay tuned. We'll be live in 30 seconds. Well, good morning, world. Welcome back to another Solve Live. It's been a busy week around here. We had our session on Tuesday. We had an amazing career fair for Rackspace at 12:30 yesterday afternoon. And all that's replayable. Lots of great information in those. Just look around LinkedIn or YouTube or Twitter, wherever you're finding this content. But thank you so much for joining here today. Again, my name is Jeff DeVerter, Chief Technology Evangelist at Rackspace Technology. Now, as always, I want to encourage you to let me know where you are. Let me know who you are. So comment down in the comments below. Shows up on my screen, and well, then I get to talk to you and talk to you by name, which is always more fun. Now, as I mentioned before, today we are digging back into the cybersecurity research findings that Dr. Laura Faulkner and her team here at Rackspace went out and found. And it's going to be some pretty interesting stuff. I think you're going to enjoy seeing that. Now, if you have any questions for us, you want to get in contact with me, of course, you can do it in LinkedIn and all those other places, but you shoot me a note. You can find me here at solve@rackspace.com. Hey, Sanjay from New Delhi, we're glad you're here. Bill Clark Kent. Yes, it's Clark Kent from San Antonio, Texas. It's a great day in San Antonio, Kent. It's the coolest morning we've had in a while, isn't it? All right. And as we get into this, of course, I mentioned that it's all about cybersecurity. We're going to lead with, I believe we're going to lead with a poll. Let's go back. We don't want to start with that. Yeah, I'm interested where your organizations are focused. So if you can use the QR code, you can use the link of just going over to what's listed there, slido.com, and put in the code. You can see it listed there at 452649, and then from there you can fill out this little survey. Now we're going to use this a little bit later when Dr. Laura Faulkner is with me here, and we're going to talk about the findings. So feel free. I'm going to bring this information back up as we progress through the morning. But the key here is slido.com. 452649 is the code. All right, that's right, Clark. It is 52 here, and I was up at 5 doing my exercises. Hope you were too. Hey, Tamil from India, we're glad that you're here. Hey, you work for Rackspace. I'm so glad. Thanks so much for that. I hope you find this informative. All right, we follow the same format, everybody. It starts with This Week in Cloud. And for this week, let's push all the right buttons so that you can see what's going on. It's a super interesting article over from Tech Republic, and it echoes something I've been saying for a while, and that is, well, not to put too fine a point on it, to heck with vendor lock-in. You know, we use that as an excuse a lot of times not to transform. And in this article, it cites several interesting examples. The first is there's this open banking initiative and law that happened over in the UK several years ago, so that when people would have the freedom to move from one bank to another, they could take all of their information with them, because that's what people thought was important. But you know what didn't happen? People didn't move banks. You know why? Because they only move banks. They didn't not move banks because they couldn't move all their data. They stay with a bank because of the customer service that they get and the features that they have. Another example is, a UK spy agency went all in on AWS, and there was this thought that there was going to be a huge backlash. The fact that all this UK spy stuff was being done in an American business. But the reality is they were able to get information back from the systems in a matter of minutes or hours, as opposed to the days or weeks that happened before. And you know what it's all about? It's all about outcomes. Then there's this large insurance company as well, and the article is cited that they wanted to move into all serverless environment. And so they put out an RFP, but they also had folks on their own team working on doing that. And by the time people responded to the RFP, their team had already moved a majority of what they needed to do into that environment. Because ultimately, it's about outcomes. And that's what the cloud really enables at this point. So my challenge to you is, well, help your organizations maybe to not think as much about the vendor lock-in ruse. Now, it doesn't mean you don't want to go into these agreements blind or not aggressive to make sure you're getting the best, not just opportunities, but prices. But you know what? Don't use it as an excuse to not transform. All right. Also in the news is an article out of TechCrunch. Now, all of these articles, all of the inputs from the cloud, they're going to be available to you. Producer Daniel's going to post them in the chat here as well. You'll be able to find them. But over at TechCrunch, it says we're just scratching the surface of the cloud's potential. Now, this echoes something that I've been saying on these live streams. It echoes what I've been saying to customers. It echoes what I've been saying to rackers inside of Rackspace. And that is that the cloud, for all intents and purposes, it's infinite. We're not asking enough of it. It's outpacing in its own innovation our ability to outpacing our ability to innovate with it. So dig deeper, folks. Don't worry about the vendor lock-in as much. I'm not saying ignore it, but what I'm saying is don't use it as a reason not to innovate. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's get into, hey, don't forget about that Slido survey. Not a whole lot of people taking us up on it at this point. I'd love for you guys to go check that out. I'd love for Laura and I to get to share some of our thoughts around what you respond with. Even if you're not in security, what do you think is the biggest threat that companies face today? Go ahead and fill it out with that in mind. All right, Daniel, we're moving on. So let's get into the updates from the cloud providers themselves. It starts with Amazon, as always. Amazon Sagemaker launches full managed RStudio workbench. Now, this is the first RStudio integrated in development environment. You can bring your current RStudio licenses and migrate self-managed RStudio environments into Amazon SageMaker in just a few simple steps. They're the first provider to make this an easy thing to do and can be managed directly inside of AWS. So that's pretty amazing as a feature. Also, Amazon Aurora Cloud Databases is a feature, is now available out in AWS GovCloud regions, US East and West. Now, if you're not familiar with this is, Amazon Aurora, the global database, is the ability to have a single database that spans regions. Pretty cool. Well, now what Amazon has done is they have brought that to the GovCloud in the US at this point, East and West. So if you have a single database, you can span both of those regions. All right, moving on into Azure. Azure Automate. Automation now supports managed identities in Azure Public, Azure Gov, and Azure China Cloud. Now, for these system-assigned and user-assigned identities, you can now integrate that into everything you're doing over on Azure Automate, bringing identity management into one of those things you don't have to do completely manual anymore. And you want to do things less manually. You want to do them more in an automated fashion. It brings consistency and helps limit opportunities for the bad guys, cyber criminals, to do the bad things with your identities. Now, in public preview is Azure Virtual Network Manager. This is pretty sweet. Before, all networking aspects had to be done inside of the account itself, inside of the individual subscriptions, but there was a lot that needed to be done above that. And now we have the ability to manage all of this stuff across subscription, across accounts in a single place globally, which is a great feature that they bring to us. Now, over at Google, egress settings for serverless VPC access is now generally available. This, of course, was in preview before, and egress settings allow you to specify whether or not send traffic with external destinations through your serverless VPC access connector, which is necessary if you want to set up static outbound IP addresses for your services. So that's great that this has matured into general availability. And then lastly, also from from Google is using interactive shell to inspect training jobs. That's, machine learning training jobs is now generally available, which is cool. Again, looking at ways for us to get in when these models are being trained, to get in and interact with those training sessions programmatically, which is a great feature. And it's nice that has now also moved into general availability. Of course, we love to think about GCP when we're thinking about data, when we're thinking about machine learning. They are leading the world in some of the stuff that they're doing there. All right. So with that, hey, let's bring that, hey, we're getting some responses. Okay, we've had a response to our poll, but let's bring the poll back up. I want to remind you to go check that poll out as we head into now our discussion with the lovely Dr. Laura Faulkner, who has not only been on this program a couple of times, but also now has also been on the podcast. Now that podcast episode is still in editing. And when I say still in editing, that means I haven't edited it yet or finished editing it, and will be coming out. Now we dig deep into the cybersecurity findings for the research that we've done. So let's bring Laura up. Laura, it is great to have you back here on the Solve Live. So welcome back from Austin, Texas, I believe, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so the topic is weather. Yeah, so the topic, of course, is weather, and it's 50 or 52 here in San. I actually think it's a little below that now, but because it doesn't get cold very much in Texas. What is it up there in Austin this morning?
Yeah, it's right around 50 degrees here.
Okay, so about the same.
Here at 50 degrees means people are pulling out their big jackets, and that's
It's I'm surprised the news cycle isn't fully. Hey, it's the freeze. Be careful out there.
That's right.
Hey, folks, I also want to remind you, not only I want you to love for you to fill out the survey, just so it adds a great combination. Hey, Brandon Miller's asking, what's that code again? The code, Brandon, or anyone else, is 452649. There you can see so far 100% of folks talking about the constantly evolving security threats and attack methods. Laura, maybe we'll use that as a jumping off point. Now, this survey that we did, I'll just recap really quickly. About 1,400 different IT security professionals interviewed across 10 different countries around the world gave us responses. Now, this wasn't, hey, fill this out and we'll send you a lollipop. This was a very curated list of folks that with our research partner, and we found some fascinating information. And so what we're seeing in our live poll is that most people, and I'd like to think there are thousands of numbers still pretty low, but Brandon's going to fill it out, is that they're worried about the evolving cybersecurity threats and attack methods. So now, Laura, that threat is not going down.
No, not indeed. And so as we talked to these or surveyed the 1,500 cybersecurity and technology professionals around the world, and these are like high-level decision makers who are really aware of what's happening, and this is their daily job. They work this every day, and they lead the strategy for this every day. To a person, they all reported that one of the biggest challenges is that threats are going up, and threats are going up not exponentially but geometrically, because you have the threat going up on one side, and then you have the increasing electronic opportunities going up on the other side, and you end up with this perfect storm.
It really is a perfect storm. It's like saying everybody's getting hungrier, and there are more food places to go buy food. I mean, it's the perfect storm because of all of this digital transformation that's going on, and more of it being available through the internet and other attack surfaces, and more people are just looking to do bad things. I mean, I was chatting with a CTO over at Dell yesterday, and what we're talking about is while there are state-sponsored activity, while there are large cyber crime individuals out there, there's also just a lot of people taking a crime of opportunity, and they're finding ways to get in. And hey, I can spend a couple of shekels and get one of these organizations to do a bad thing, and maybe I can get a little payday at the end. The reality is that audience, that population of people who have the propensity or who are actively engaged is growing.
Yes, yes, it absolutely is. And the threats are, or the vulnerabilities are in places that we wouldn't expect. As we've talked to some of our security experts here and also outside of Rackspace, just them highlighting to us that the vulnerability, the soft spots are in places that we hadn't thought about, we didn't expect. It's not always on that. It's not always a full frontal attack.
Yeah.
There are those small doorways to get in, and then there is the human in the loop. There's that the opportunity of one person to click on one link, and suddenly a lot of things have gone wrong.
A lot of things
So
goes wrong very fast. Yeah.
yes, exactly. So then what we have here is that the threats have built, the vulnerabilities have built over time, and vulnerabilities that we're not necessarily watching anymore, as an industry. The small places to get in.
Now, I would think that for those listening, this sounds, it probably rings true, because we all sort of keep a pulse on the cybersecurity issues that are going on, or at least we're reading the news. But in this research, and let's just step back for 1 second. I already talked about the size and the scope that we went out, but it's been analyzed not by me. I've read what you have analyzed. Now, this is your business. This is your life. So maybe just really quickly, what is your background? Tell me about your degrees. Tell me about, how you're approaching this, and then also why this is exciting to you.
Oh, okay. Awesome. So, just over 25 years experience in technology and in actual human research around technology. Multiple degrees in sociology, anthropology, and psychology. And my master's and doctorate are in experimental and research psychology, in which we're required to do quantitative research and really become masters at quantitative research around human behavior, human awareness, and that sort of thing. So I do that at Rackspace as the head of technology, both to develop things well for our customers and those who will be our customers in the future, and then also to do this larger service that we do here at Rackspace, which is studying the whole world and studying trends and that sort of thing, and doing high level investigations of what's really going on in the world, and then sharing those freely here. It's one of my favorite parts.
Right. Now, I knew that history, but I asked that question so that everyone would know that, because it's going to drive towards my next question, Laura, and that is, in the research you figured out that through some of the questions, that really folks aren't investing significantly more. In fact, I just read an article just this morning that over the next 4 years, it's expected that the world will spend $1.75 trillion on cybersecurity.
Yes.
But what you uncovered is that number's not really increasing company by company.
That is correct. And so, just as a reality check, this is another reason we really love to offer this research, is that it can let folks around the world see where do I stand, where am I in all of this. And so right now what we're seeing is that most organizations, so if you take your full budget and then you scope down to your IT budget, the percent of your IT budgets that most companies are using is somewhere between 2.5% of your full IT budget and 10%. So upper bound, and that's most, about 3/4 spend in that range, with more spending 5 to 10% of their IT budget on cybersecurity. So that's So if you want to know your reality check, that's what it is. And company sizes, if you're a company of less than 100 employees, that looks like 500,000 to 5 million. If you're a company of up to about 1,000 employees, that looks like 500,000 to 10 million, and then companies over 1,000 averaging 1 to 25 million. So those all sound like big numbers. They're reasonable numbers, in the scheme of things. However, just like what you were saying just now, and you were beginning to allude to, so I wanted to present those reality checks
Yep.
first, and now we get to the punchline, is that, so we asked and correlated these questions about, are threats going up? Yes, all of these threats are going up. And then we ask them about, what are the vulnerabilities? What are those happening? Yes, those are going up. And then we ask about their, the available resources and expertise. And it's like, those have been hard to find and going down. So at the same time, then we ask them, okay, how are you adjusting your budgets? You have greater threat, greater opportunity. And the answer floored us. They're staying flat. Over the next
incredible.
5 years, there's this recognition that this is one of the most significant things to address in technology, and yet there's an anticipation that we'll keep our budgets flat, and there's talk about, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this other thing, and it's like, I'm not sure what to do with it.
Seems like a disconnect, doesn't it, Laura? In fact, Clark Kent, I love Clark, you're cracking me up. Clark calls out, he says he believes that addressing cyber threats is a leadership issue. Now, as we connect the dots back to budgets, it sure sounds like a leadership issue to me.
It certainly does. It certainly does. I think that's a wise, a very prescient way to think about it. Well done.
That's right. And so, now it's a leadership issue from a top-down point of view, but one of the reasons, again, I had you go back and go through your resume, if you will, is the fact that you also into the sociology side of why people are thinking what they're thinking and why they're making decisions. And the fact that it does go back, in this case, it goes back not to a technology failure, it goes back to a human failure. And I'll use the word failure because if budgets are staying flat and the threat is getting higher. I mean, the image in my head at this point is, the Titanic is filling with water and we're not going to put more pumps down there. I mean, I think the threat is that dire, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. And so some of the areas that we asked, we expected some of these areas to like really jump out as single, well, at least we're going to spend more on this. At least we're going to invest more, not spend more. Let's not even talk about spend.
Right.
Jeff.
Right.
It's really, at least we're going to invest more in this and this, because we both know, and we also know from the security experts that you and I have been learning from in these past months, is that investment has specific returns. So it's a lot. It's a lot cheaper along the way to protect, and not just to protect, but to simply build well, build right in the first place, instead of building a hole in the bottom of your building somewhere where can be a leak.
That's right.
So in that investment, that upfront investment is what's critical, and what save you huge amounts down the road. I mean, we've seen these major breaches. The cost of those just cascades down through organizations, even in terms of brand and in terms of your brand perception. This is not why you want to be in the news.
No, this is not why you want to be in this. No. It's a great call out.
No, but I want to share a couple of the things. We were stunned to have this particular answer come back very, very flat and straight, and that there's no increase in investment on any of these. And no one of these things came out as, we want to invest more than that. So here are some of the top ones that were there, which is protecting data in any form from unrestricted access, or from manipulation, or from destruction or distribution. So protecting data, flat at 16%, or 16% of people said this is one of the things we want to protect. 16% of the people said we'll use hardware and software to protect applications from external threats. And that's it. It's like it didn't, and it's not changing from one year to the next. Not investing more in tools and processes, in network protection. It's like they're expecting all of these, protecting endpoint devices. That's even down, 13% of them mentioned that.
And perhaps one of the greatest exposures that we've got.
Correct. And so the fact that we're seeing a lot of these things stay flat, there's very seldom do I bring in my human background so much, and a bit of human analysis, but in some ways, I think what we're measuring here is fear. I think
Mm,
I think that we're measuring a fear of, okay, yes, it's going to happen, but we can't afford for us, or we believe we can't afford for us to do anything about it. So and we have to keep operating it the same way. And if we're going to defend it, we have to defend it with the same investment, the same budget, the same spend that we've had before. We're just not going to be able to increase it. And I don't know. There's got to be ways to think about that. So that's what I think we're seeing is wishful thinking
yeah.
on
Yeah.
that.
And wishful thinking, I'm going to translate that hope, and hope is not a strategy.
Hope is not a strategy. Correct. And yeah, that there you just said.
Well, and I want to make one more little point, and then we're going to pull up the little survey response and comment on that for a second. But we talk about all of this, and we've had all of our conversation about it as if what we're doing is purely insurance. How do I make sure that I'm as well protected as possible when bad guys come knocking? But the reality is cyber capabilities are as much a marketable quality of your service, regardless of the service. And so it's super important also to think about it as not just a cost center, but an opportunity.
Yes. And so, I mean, imagine being able to go to market regardless of what you offer, to even just have the little asterisks that talk about this 99.999% uptime, or
Yep.
what about the Holy Grail, 100% uptime,
That's right. That's right.
and
We're
100%,
five nines.
and no breaches in, like those, remember those old safety things in the factories, or
Oh,
things,
that's right. No
no
accidents in the
accidents
past. Yeah.
for
Yep. Yep.
3,479 days.
That's right.
So yeah, imagine in this world being able to have something like that on there. I wasn't even thinking about that potential ROI. But you said something very interesting. It's like you said, the investment in the insurance. What
Yeah.
if you were investing in, like, if you're going to insure a bridge, right? You want to, that's in case something goes wrong with the bridge. How
Right.
about we build the bridge where something doesn't go wrong in the first place?
Right.
That
And that's
could
when we
be,
get into the whole, DevSecOps scenario. That's when we're integrating security into everything we do from the foundation all the way up. You're so right.
yes.
Hey, we're getting towards the end, but I want to bring up our survey response, and we'll see what the audience is saying about all of this. It looks like the majority of folks are worried about the constantly evolving security threats and attack methods. And I think they're well founded in being concerned about that.
Yes, those are the unknowns, the absolute unknowns. But
Yeah.
very interestingly, look at that 17% down on the increasing attack opportunities. Those are the open doorways.
Oh, yeah.
Those are
Yep.
things that we can have more awareness of as owners of technology, and where we have the opportunity to plug up those holes, to do something about that, to shore that up. That's the bridge right there.
That is
That's
the
the bridge
bridge.
to build better. And so, yeah, it's very interesting that the fear is about the external unknown boogeyman type, and yet we have more control over that middle section. And perhaps that's, I'd be interested to. I'd love to run that experiment. to
Hey,
see
Laura, and
which
it's
of
not on
those.
and it's not on the screen. We just had another respondent, and that number went down a little bit more, and we got a little bit more up on the constantly evolving threats. So people are worried about the unknown. And I'll tell you, one of the things I found that is it really helps with that fear of the unknown. And Marilyn, thank you for being a part of this today from Houston. Is just immerse yourself in what's happening in cyber world. And there's some really great ways. My favorite book right now, Nicole Perloff's book called "This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends." She's a New York Times reporter and has been covering cyber for the past 10 years and has done an amazing job. We'll find a link to that and post it in the comments below. But Laura, we're at the top of the hour, so I want to thank you again, not just for doing all the research, but taking the time to be with me here today as we talk about it.
My pleasure. Thank you for
All
having
right.
me.
And everyone, thanks again for being a part of this Solve Live. We're here every Tuesday and every Thursday, and I encourage you to come back. We're here at 8:30 Central Time, and the comment or the link has been put down below if you want access to that white paper on all of the research that Dr. Laura and her team pulled together. So everyone, hope you have an amazing day, and we'll see you back on Tuesday.